Secretary General will do a walkthrough of the offices on the third and fourth floor.
Are those no longer with offices?
Free to go wherever you are free to go.
Okay.
And I'll give you the details where it starts, but he'll try to go around all the offices on those floors. That's it. Mr. Lee.
Sure. I wanted to ask you, it's been reported that the French judicial inquiry into the peacekeepers, Sangaris, Central African Republic's peacekeepers charged with sexual abuse of minors has resulted in no charges at all. And throughout this process, you'd said that, the UN is watching it, but leaves it up to the French authorities. Given the level of detail that people came forward and that people have seen the memos that Mr. Compass, who was fired, released, what does the UN think of a judicial process that results in no accountability whatsoever?
I read it in detail, the rather long and interesting piece published in France. From what I gather, it is now up to the prosecutor to decide whether or not to go forward with the investigative judges having submitted their results. So obviously we'll keep an eye on this. But it's, as we've said, it is the responsibility of member states to fully investigate and hopefully prosecute crimes. The fight against impunity for these horrendous actions has to be a partnership between the UN and member states. And we hope every case is fully and thoroughly investigated.
What's the status of the 25 Burundian cases referred by OIOS back to the government, given the UN's decision to bring in 800 more Burundian peacekeepers
my understanding is correct, they still have some time through which to submit information back to us, and we look forward to receiving that information. We obviously try from here to inform you and inform the greater public through the press. As you know, all the Secretary General's speeches and statements are disseminated widely on social media platforms as well, and websites, and through our very active network of UN information centers. Mr. Lee.
Sure. I want to ask you, the Myanmar government had set up a panel to ostensibly investigate what was happening in Rakhine State, and they've issued their report, and it says that there is, quote, no proof of religious persecution and no evidence of rape, which is contrary to what almost everyone else has found. I believe even the UN itself has found. So what is the response of the UN system? And also, is there a good offices going forward?
No, Mr. Nambiar's work has concluded, was not renewed for the next year. That is not to say that the Secretary General will continue to watch the situation in Myanmar extremely closely, as the UN system as a whole will continue. We have not changed our opinion in terms of what we've seen through the visit in Rakhine State, and through various reports that the UN system has spoken about, and continue to express our concern at the situation there and in the neighboring countries as people flee, as we've seen a mass movement of people out of Rakhine State into neighboring Bangladesh, to mention just one. Mr. Lee.
Sure. So, two questions. One is about Gambia. The Electoral Commission chief has gone into hiding, and the government has closed 3 radio stations, one of which reopened with no news on it. So what's the status of the UN's work on this holdover presidency?
We've had, various UN officials have had contacts with parties involved, and obviously we would like to see, very keen to see a peaceful resolution to the current crisis in the Gambia, and notably for the president, the outgoing president, to leave way for the president that was just elected.
And I wanted to ask you this. I know I'd asked you. There was some. Well, I'll just ask you about the fact of the matter. But there's a tie to the current. I'd asked you before the Secretary General left office about a media in South Korea saying that they'd received from you what they thought of was a threat that seemed to say that there would be further action taken. And now it seems that the Secretary General has, in fact, filed a legal action in South Korea about this CISA press and its allegation of bribery. And I wanted to know, given that the UN often says that reporting on corruption is important, and given what some see as South Korean laws being not very press-friendly, i.e. a person couldn't leave the country because they wrote about President Park. One, did you use the words further necessary measures or further measures of any kind to cease suppress? And two, what does it say about the UN system that the first action that Ban Ki-moon took when he left office was to go after media for reporting on,
Well,
they
I
say,
think,
corruption?
Listen, as I've said, one Secretary General at a time. I think, as I've done numerous times serving various Secretaries General, when there have been articles that have been based on absolutely zero fact, we have complained and we've written. I think there's nothing untowards towards that. What has happened since January 1st, I cannot confirm or speak to it because I have no knowledge of it. The fact that an institution or a person defends themselves when they feel they're being attacked without any grounds in the media, I think is a basic right of any individual.
While you were still the spokesman for Ban Ki-moon, I asked you in writing, when was the last time that the then Secretary General had spoken with the individual named in this charge and the footwear company tied to the previous president?
I don't
Did you
know.
ask?
I don't know.
So the question
Thank you.
was just,
Yes, go ahead.
Other
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
are those
Thank you.
no longer with offices?
Wherever you are free to go.
Okay.